Black Cat Appreciation Day?
It is National. No, it's not National Black Cat
No,
Appreciation.
not national. You always put the national in front.
Always got
Not
to the national.
Not everything has a national in front.
But you know what? Sometimes I say national and it's actually international, so it goes both ways.
The cat goes both ways?
I don't know. You got to ask it. I'm not sure.
They found the face down in his waffles, maple syrup dripping from his fake roll. Who did he see when he heard who was there? Now it seems that
All right, everybody. Welcome out to the Lager Room Guys Craft Beer Show. It is Tuesday, September the 21st, 2021. Jersey Johnny coming at you. And with me, as always, is none other than Mr. Beer Samurai. Say hello, Mr. Samurai.
Hey, everybody. Happy, actually, it's autumnal solstice, autumnal equinox.
That's tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah. Tomorrow at like 3:20 in the afternoon or something like that.
No,
Yeah.
we'll celebrate that.
The autumnal equinox is tomorrow, yeah.
We're going to Stonehenge.
So why you sound far away?
I don't know. Oh, you know why?
Why?
Because this is up here, so I can eat my bratwurst.
Oh, you're eating bratwurst?
Yeah, because it's one of the many things that begin with B that I'm grateful for, and it is World Gratitude Day.
It is World Gratitude Day.
Mhm.
Let's throw that up right here.
And I'm grateful for so many things that begin with a B.
As am I. So you're eating bratwurst? Yeah. So am I.
Cool.
There you go.
There you go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Prost. So, beer is one of them. Bacon, bourbon, butter.
I could think of a couple others.
Yeah, I can think of a pair of things too. But beer, this show's about beer, so of course the big B is beer.
Big B is beer, absolutely. And it's also, Oktoberfest.
It is Oktoberfest. Oktoberfest is rolling. We've got Hackettstown's got a big celebration coming up with wiener dog races and everything.
Everything, yep.
You get the dachshunds out there, tripping over each other.
The
That should be a lot of fun. Dachshunds, yes, Dachshund B220s.
I thought that was Nissan now. It's not Datsun anymore.
They are Nissan now, but if you've got some antique cars out there, you can get those rolling.
This is true, too.
But now the thing about Oktoberfest, just the German styles that come out during Oktoberfest, the Marzen, the Fest beer.
Yep.
But I just love like a lot of the German lagers, German pilsners. When Carrie and I were in Maine, we came on the way back. We drove through Amesbury.
Okay.
Right, that's in Massachusetts. We stopped off at Beowulf. Really cool hang there. Pinball machine, skee ball. Had some funky beers there too. It was really cool. But when you go closer into town, go around the big corner, there was this place, Brewery Silvaticus.
Okay.
If you remember, I sent you that picture of the their Schwartz beer.
Yep. I can't help
Brewery Silvaticus.
I can't help but notice you're wearing the shirt. Yeah.
I liked them so much. I don't. Unlike you, I don't buy a ton of shirts, but the brewery has to really impress me to get the shirt.
Absolutely. Well,
Right.
Me too, to a point. I mean, I'm wearing Grist House. I mean, it's near Brewery Silvaticus. It's just about like 400 miles west in Pittsburgh.
And a little south.
A little south.
Yeah, a little south.
Maybe not 400, maybe like 300. Maybe.
But remember, I ordered the Schwartz beer first. Sent you a picture of it. Schwartz beer is Oblivion. I may have one of those left. May have two of those left. I'm drinking that and enjoying it. And as if you watch the show, John loves his Schwartz beer, so I'm taunting him with it.
Every minute he could.
And then I'm watching the bar, and they pour this one beer, and it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. This gorgeous, gorgeous beer with an amazing head of foam on it. And like, what is that beer? And it was quintessential.
That's the name of the beer?
Yep, it is their Pilsner. And it's absolutely fantastic.
I think you have a crawl here for it. Look at that.
There we do. And the reason we have a crawl is I have one of them. I'm going to attempt to actually pour it beautifully, which I'm probably going to fail at miserably, but we will see.
A slow pour?
I'm going to try a slow pour of it.
I think there's absolutely no way you, Beer Samurai,
I can do a slow pour. I can't do a slow drink.
Yeah, that's true.
So, it'd be really cool.
What's that?
If we could get these guys on the show.
That would be really cool if we get these guys on the show. That'd be awesome.
Make that happen.
Let me make that happen. There we go. Made it happen.
Did you?
Yeah, well, he muted his mic.
There he is.
Jay? And is he frozen?
He might actually be frozen.
And now he's unmuted. There he is.
Oh, there
There
we
he
go.
is. Actually, you know what? I didn't do too poorly.
You didn't do too
Not
too
bad.
poorly, really.
Not
Did
bad.
you
Hey, caught that. Sorry.
What's
Please
happening,
don't.
guys?
Please don't write.
What's going on here?
What's
There he
happening is I'm about to enjoy one of your amazing beers here.
Welcome to the show, Jay Bullen from Brewery Silvaticus in Amesbury, Massachusetts.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Oh God, this is so good.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. We're super stoked about that beer, and we've been brewing it for a couple years now. And it was a fun beer because it was my Dylan, my brewer, who had come on just at the time when we were developing that beer, and it was the first beer that we kind of worked on together. So working through just style wise what we were looking for, different parameters, tried a bunch of different styles. And because we were looking to add something else to the lineup, we had Sovereign, which is more of our continental, more of a Czech Pilsner, and Why Not, which is our boat beer, kind of a light American rice lager. And we were, yeah, I know it sounds weird. We were looking to find something that kind of fit in between the two.
Right.
And so we settled on quintessential as a Pilsner. We were also kind of looking at maybe doing a Helles, but the two of us really kind of fell in love with the idea of doing a proper German Pilsner.
Very nice.
In the lineup, and it's basically become our flagship beer.
Oh, it's just such a beautiful beer.
That's awesome.
It's got that. I mean, the noble hops really shine in this beer. You get that nice floral with a just a slight hint of spice to it.
Totally. Yeah, nice kind of doughiness to it. But it's crisp, it's snappy. Yeah, that's always my go-to beer. That's my kind of shift beer every day for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that could never work for you.
And as we know, owning a brewery, you limit yourself to one beer a day.
For sure.
So absolutely. So this is that's the one you go to.
Just one style of beer a day, you mean, right?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Potato.
Depends. It depends on if it's work or not.
This is true. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it all goes out the window if you actually have to do some tasting and stuff like that. But,
well, yeah, those don't count. So
it's just the one you're enjoying. That's the one.
Right. The social beer.
Right. Exactly.
Quality control is work, so it doesn't count.
Right. Exactly. So. Anyway, all right. So what are you drinking? Before we get into this,
so I'm drinking our Oktoberfest right now.
Very nice.
6%. We brew it once a year to celebrate not only Oktoberfest but also our anniversary, which falls the second week in September. So we just celebrated 4 years. Had a big blast at the brewery, and it was very well attended. Everybody was very well behaved, and it was a good time. Had by all.
It's always a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, but this is one of our funnest times of year because we are a lager heavy brewery. We don't brew IPAs. We focus on traditional styles, European styles, continental lagers for the most part. We also have an affinity for farmhouse beers, Belgian style beers. Nice. So that's where our focus falls. But every year, the Oktoberfest, it's one of our favorites as at the brewery because there's such a good vibe behind it. It's such a great beer because it kind of signifies fall and the changing of the season and everybody's, the kids are back to school and people are kind of getting back into routines coming out of summer. And it's just a perfect beer for this time of year, especially around here.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more with that style anyway.
Now, this is a bit off topic, but you're sitting in a convertible?
I am.
What are you sitting in?
I'll give you bonus points if you can guess what it is. I just got it last week.
I've been trying to guess.
Yeah, I've been looking at
this. Present.
Those seats and all that. It's the edges of it. Damn thing looks like a Bentley from here, but
well, it's close. The time when it was built, it was basically was. Let me see if I can give you a hint. The year it was made, it was the only model made by that manufacturer.
Really?
Oh, crud!
I don't think crud's the name of it.
No, crud.
Not crud.
Now, hit us with it, Jay. What are you sitting in?
I'm sitting in a 1964 Lincoln Continental.
It came to mind that it might be a Lincoln, but doesn't count if you don't say it.
1964.
She's a beauty. I found Craigslist find last week. And,
You know, I mean, now that you say that, that was the giveaway. I mean, there was something so familiar about those rails going down, which would go down over like the rear quarter panels and the fenders like
Mhm.
that. That screams Lincoln. Right
yeah,
there,
it's got
so.
the suicide doors and not a bit of rust on it. The guy I bought it from had it in his garage for 28 years. It
Really.
was just one of those I couldn't pass it up kind of thing.
Nice.
That's great.
So
That's
now
great.
my 67 Fury had to move over into the next bay. It's not gonna feel a little
67
neglected.
Fury.
Feel a little neglected.
Both of your cars are older than Johnny.
Well,
Yeah. Well, and you.
And actually, the Fury, considering it's a 67 model, was made in 66, so that's older than
It's
me.
older than you too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
there you go.
So there you go.
Yeah, the Fury is a beautiful car too. Little not as refined as the Continental, but
There you go.
it's a hell of a lot of fun to drive.
I imagine.
Well, before we get into talking, let me just open my beer. I'm joining you with a Massachusetts beer, all of you, but it's just Night Shift's.
Hell,
Nice.
There you go. So it's a Zwickel beer
Schmickel.
or a Keller beer, one or the other. So
Keller
whatever you
Weiss?
wanna call it. What's that?
Keller Weiss?
Keller. No, it's the
Keller
Keller beer, Zwickel beer, whatever you want to call it. So let me just pour this bad boy here.
And will you do the slow pour?
I'm doing a slow pour. Nice slow pour.
I have to say, Jay, your staff is so well trained. They pour beer beautifully.
Thank you. Yeah, that's our big thing is hospitality and kind of curating experience for the customer when they come in. We don't distribute our beer at all. You can only find our beer in the tap room.
Is that right?
So yeah, so very limited, and it's all about kind of the on-premise experience and the ambiance and the music and the service. And our guys knock it out of the park. They're really fantastic.
Oh, I had the Shazam open all the time, going, "Who is this? This song's awesome!" in the brewery. I gotta say, it's a beautiful brewery. The tanks are right in the brewery.
Thank you.
You've got the rail, and then you got the seats with the bar rail, and the stools there. But what's really cool is that that boiler behind the bar,
For
that
sure.
boiler door.
Yeah, and it opens right up into the smokestack there. So we've got the big smokestack. You probably outside the building.
Mhm.
And, that opens up right inside. Like you can climb in there. The footprint of that thing is massive.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's an amazing space. When we found that space, we were just kind of blown away by it. And it's only been a boiler room and a brewery.
That's it.
So Amesbury is a mill town for years. So we're in the lower mill yard. In some of one of the refurbished mill buildings, and the space that we're in is actually the boiler room that used to provide all the steam for the other buildings in the mill yard, lower and upper.
Nice.
So it's really kind of beautiful space with the high ceilings and set the boilerplate, all the exposed brick, right on the Powwow River out back there. We've got the beer garden, and it really is kind of a magic little space there. Definitely better for retail than the logistics of brewing beer. But it's a trade-off that we were definitely willing to kind of to give up to have that space and be able for people to enjoy and consume beer in it.
Nice.
Well, we dove in pretty deeply because John usually likes to ask a question first before we get too deep into everything. So we'll let John ask his question.
I'll ask you the question straight away. We always ask everybody, and it can be an ish. What was the first craft beer you ever had or you remember having? Ish.
Oh man, you're talking like gateway beer?
Sure. You can
work.
use a gateway beer or whatever. Yeah.
I would have to say the beer that I remember most fondly would be Sam Smith's Oatmeal Stout.
Good one.
Because it was one of those beers, and I drank a lot of Guinness. I was a dark beer guy when I still love dark beer, session dark beer, and that was one of that kind of got me into it. And there was a German place up around the corner from my house, and you guys know I was born and raised in Staten Island in New York City, and it was the name of it, Schaefer's, and it was a German beer bar, but they had bottles of Sam Smith, and I used to go there. I used to have lunch there with my dad, and I'd always order a bottle of Sam Smith with my sausage plate. And because there was something about it, it was just different. It was full bodied, it was rich. And at that point I hadn't kind of been, kind of the German beer culture hadn't kind of been ingrained to me yet. It was still my early stages. So I was really into kind of dark beers and just the full body and the flavor. And it was always good. Every time you open one, it was so fantastic. It was such a great food beer too. So that was definitely the beer that I would say really got me started into enjoying what craft beer could be and like what was out there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think one of my first steps into the dark beer world that wasn't Guinness was the Taddy Porter.
Oh yeah, that's
And
another
Good
great.
to you.
when they put the bottle on the table, this was in John knows this place in Stroudsburg, a place called Floods.
Oh yeah.
When they put the bottle on the table, I looked at it. I thought the glass was black. I started pouring like the glass is clear. What the hell? So yeah, it's Samuel Smith's. I mean, so many of their styles are the consummate styles.
Their nut brown ale is delicious too.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Imperial Stout.
Yeah, all of them.
You judge a lot of those styles of beers by Sam Smith's version.
Sure.
And Oatmeal Stout, absolutely.
For sure. And it was pretty readily available back in the day too. It wasn't like you had to seek it out. Like you were able to find it pretty regularly, which was fantastic.
Yeah. Still can, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. You still can. That's the thing. So, all right. So let's dive into your brewery. When did you first know that you wanted to get into this business?
Oh man. So
Putting you on the spot.
Another way to word that is what happened in your life that you just took a left turn.
Or even better, what were you thinking?
I still don't know.
Right.
So my breakthrough was years ago. So when I first met my wife, and I mean, we're talking almost 18 years ago, 17 years ago, something like that. It's been a while. We 6 months after we started dating, living in New York City, we moved out to California together. She got a job out there, really good job offer, and we decided to kind of make the move and head out west. It was something both of us kind of had always wanted to do, and the opportunity was right, the timing was right. So we packed up and moved cross country to the Bay Area, to Mountain View, home of Google and
Sure.
all kinds of other tech kind of in that area. And we moved out there. She had a job right when we got there, so she started working right away, and I was kind of looking around for something. And in my previous life, I was a carpenter, so I was kind of looking in that field. But I'd also spent a lot of time working for a caterer growing up from when I was in high school.
Sure.
For years, I worked for a caterer, local caterer on Staten Island, who was a family friend of my mom and dad. So I started working for her like on New Year's Eve when I was like 14 years old. And I think I worked there till I was about 22. And
Were you sneaking the unfinished drinks?
oh man, no, I wasn't a big drinker when I was a teenager. It didn't really appeal to me at that point. It took a while.
Neither was I.
Now
John.
what happened? But yeah, so we moved out to California, and I found a gig at a brew pub out there that was right in town. It was in walking distance, the Tide House, and I was working as a server, working as a host, but I had never really been exposed to a brew pub, like a place that had brewed beer, because growing up in New York City, there weren't a lot of places. Even in, there was the spot out in Woodbridge. Man, I can't think of the name of it. In the old train station.
J.J. Biddings.
Yeah.
Oh, New Jersey, that's still there.
And but it wasn't the same thing. And getting out to California, it just totally opened my eyes up to what the world of beer. So all of a sudden I'm working in this place, and there's these big shiny tanks behind a plate glass, and you can see what's going on. And I was always someone who enjoyed like the kind of working with my hands,
Right.
like understanding how to making things. And it really appealed to me. So I didn't get into brewing while I was working at the Tide House, and eventually I got a job working at a cabinet shop, which paid a lot better and the hours were a lot better. So I kind of moved over to there, and which was awesome. I was working 410, so we'd have I'd have a 3-day weekend every week, and that would allow us to explore California, camping up and down the coast, all the national parks. back when you could actually, you didn't need a reservation to go to a campground, and it didn't cost the same as a hotel to get a spot. But that while we were there, it kind of felt like, okay, I need to start doing this. I need to figure it out. And there was a homebrew store right around the corner too, another place I could basically walk to.
Right.
So I hit up the homebrew store, got my kit, like so many other guys, and started brewing in my kitchen. Extract on the stove. I think the first batch I want to say was a Hefeweizen that didn't come out too well. Second one was a porter that came out better.
Gotcha.
Common story.
I kind
There you
of, just stuck with it, fermented in the closet and bottling by hand and not really understand exactly what was going on, just kind of going at it and following the directions. And that went on for a couple of years while we were living out there. And at some point we moved back to New York. And when I moved back to New York, I decided, okay, I'm going to get into all grain. I'm going to build my own rig. And my best friend, Ken, he had just bought a house. And so when we moved back, he had this whole basement. And I was like, shit. And I was like, how about we set up let's build a all electric setup in the basement. We can brew our own beer. And he's, super handy too. So the two of us kind of went at it and built our own rig and really delved deep into what beer making actually could be. And during that time, then at some point I decided, hey, this could be a career. So I started looking into school and looking at going back out to California, to UC Davis, but there was like a 2-year wait for that. So I kind of put it on the back burner. But at that time, then I picked up a gig interning at Cricket Hill in Jersey, and which we've touched on, which was a super, super fascinating experience for me. And someone who, I knew about brewing beer, and I was getting very confident about what I was doing because, the beer was tasting good to me at that point. And getting kind of thrown into what it was like to operate a brewery was eye-opening. And those guys, they threw me into every little bit they could. Whatever had to be filled in, it was like, hey, can you do this? Hey, build out boxes. Sure. Hey, clean this floor. Hey, go rearrange the cooler. Hey, help us out on bottling day. Hey, go check. Can you stop at this account on your way home and see if they need any more beer? Right. It was every kind of everything basically that I'm doing now.
Right.
I had a little taste of, which was really cool. And I think that kind of pushed me towards saying, hey, I think I want to open my own place. Like, I can do this. Right.
And then Dave was brewing then too, right? Dave Manka was brewing then too?
Yeah, Dave was when I first got there. And then he left. And, man, I'm super bad with names because I drink way too much beer. No, that was after my time, I think.
Mamet came afterwards. Who was in between you and Dave?
Who else was there? Tim. I don't know if Tim was brewing. Tim Mason. He was. I think he was an assistant.
He was an assistant. He didn't brew. Yeah.
Yeah. Tim's still a good buddy of mine. He's a rad
Tim's
dude.
A good guy. Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of opened my eyes to the whole own your own brewery thing and being able to see everything from the ground up was really what pushed me to do it. So I decided at that point, okay, either I can keep working here for free for another couple of years and see how it pans out, or I can go ahead and go to brewing school. So I decided to make the leap and ended up going to Siebel Institute in Chicago and spent some time in Duman's Academy in Germany also. And that pushed me towards started my German chapter, I guess, which is still kind of going.
We're grateful for that.
We're very grateful for it. Very, very, very grateful for it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Drink a beer fresh. Like, that's always my thing. That's why, we don't really distribute beer because I think beer should be drank at the source. That's where it's going to taste the best, and being able to experience those beers at the breweries in the beer gardens, it was, I still dream about those beers. It really kind of, it's what I strive to do and kind of pay homage to those beers that I remember when we were over there in school.
Well, I just did want to say quintessential. When was I there, John? It was almost a month ago I was there.
It was.
I'll tell you what, though.
I could tell you the date. It was the 14th of August, 14th or 15th of August. Yeah.
14th or 15th of August, and you know what? Not for nothing, your beer held up. Your beer, it definitely held up. I know, granted, at the brewery, that's the whole experience, everything involved with it. Yes, better, crisper, fresher at the brewery.
Of course. Well, you never. Sure. That's never going to be fresher than that. Yeah.
But when it comes to I don't think you got too much fade in the can.
Well, that's good to hear. And yeah, like COVID pushed us to the 4-packs. I mean, before COVID, we were doing crowlers because we weren't selling a lot of beer to go. We were selling pretty much everything in the tap room. And when we had to make the switch, we had already been planning to kind of move over to the 4-packs because we knew it was a better vessel. We knew that, for the longevity, it would be better. But yeah, with everything that happened last year, it kind of brought it to the forefront, and now we're just rolling with it. It's become we're selling so much more beer to go. Because and also still, things are still building back up. We're not where we were at pre-pandemic, but we're getting back there.
Yeah, it's getting back slowly but surely, but it's still got a ways to go.
We'll see if the cooler weather makes gives us a spike and they start closing stuff down again. Hope not.
Hope not. Yeah.
But we'll see, because September. I know New York put their stats out that September saw more deaths than August. So there's an increase, but the weather hasn't really gotten. I mean, the last 2 days has it gotten cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and today really wasn't that cool either. It was
not cool. Let's see, cooler.
Cooler, yeah. It wasn't 95 degrees. That's what it was.
Yeah, we're still not in fall weather.
It's still summer until tomorrow afternoon at 3 something.
Tomorrow,
so.
Which we covered.
I think so.
Technicalities. Yeah,
exactly.
My favorite time of year up here is September. It's the weather's fantastic. There's no humidity. It's cool. It starts cooling off at night. My wife doesn't agree because it means she can't go in the pool anymore. But
yeah, no, I've been told we need to sneak in another beach run before it gets too cool. Yeah. Whereas, I look forward to the fall every year.
I look forward to the fall every year too. But I definitely think we have another beach run in us. Justin and I,
Maybe we'll have to coordinate that.
Yeah. Well, it's not too far away from here.
No, maybe not this weekend.
Yeah.
Finished up my move this weekend, so
but, this is true. Anyway, so why Amesbury?
Why Amesbury?
How did Staten Island guy? Well, we know you got out to California, then you came back. What brought you up there?
Well, before we get to Amesbury, so after brewing school, I ended up in Alaska for 5 years.
Really?
You work brewing, or was it just another move?
Or on a crab boat?
No, I'm not.
The king crabs out like that,
Not a huge fan of being out on the ocean. I like my land yachts.
There you go. The one you're sitting in right now.
Exactly. No, so in brewing school, the first day, sat down, and we had these name tags on our desks, or we had them. We put them down, and this dude comes and sits down next to me, and it says David from Alaska, and he looked like an Eskimo. He was a little tall.
Really?
I'm 6'2". He's probably 6'3" and a half. Slick back, black hair, ponytail, big stupid smile on his face, and he turned out to become one of my best friends, and happened to be he was the owner of 49th State Brewing Company.
Really?
In right outside Denali National Park.
Wow.
He
bucket list. I need to put this down.
Put that down.
Oh yeah. So he's a Chicago native. Up there, chef. Opened a couple restaurants up there, and they were getting ready to open the 49th State. So we became fast friends, and studied together, drank together, realized we had a lot of commonalities in the beers that influenced us and the beers that we wanted to make. And about halfway through school, he said, "Hey, what do you think about coming up to Alaska and helping me get this place up and running?" And I was, while I was in school, my whole goal was when I went back, I was going to open my own place in New York. So
imagine,
my wife,
like these German craft lagers in Staten Island. Wouldn't that be nice?
It would
Sorry,
be.
go ahead.
It might actually get me to go to Staten Island on purpose.
Yeah, I don't know if that. I don't know if it's still might not be enough.
Yeah.
But,
It's an might.
That's fine. Come on.
so yeah, so I talked to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, Michelle, and I was like, "Hey, what do you think about Alaska?" And she had a really good gig in New York City. She was working for Apple, Soho store manager. Like she had like she was in a good spot, and but she loved to travel, and she was like, I don't know, I'm coming out next week. Maybe we can talk about it more. She was coming out to visit me while I was at school. So she came out to visit, and we went to lunch with David at a Revolution Brewing Company.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
we started
love that
early.
place.
I think we started around when they open around 11,
Mhm.
and we went through 3 different servers at our table while we sat there talking
Done
about
Oh, yeah.
just life and beer.
I've done that at Revolution too. So
And I've never been to Revolution, but
talking life and beer, and he kind of made his pitch to us, and we walked out the door, Michelle and we looked at each other and like, fuck, let's do it. So finished up school. That was while we were still in Chicago. Went out, did the Germany part, and flew back to New York, packed up a bag. 4 days later, Michelle and I headed up to Anchorage, took the train up to Denali, and started our first season at 49th State.
yeah, not a lot of Apple stores in Denali
There's
National
not.
Park.
No. So she ended up, she managed the front of house for a while. She ended up doing HR for the subsequent seasons that were up there. And it was really, really, again, a really kind of fascinating look at what business was and could be, and the different parts of it, because up there you have to be you have to be all in. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes. There's no, the nearest like hardware store is 2 hours away. So
Jeez.
That's got to be interesting.
handy. You got to be planful. You got to think on your feet. You got to learn to deal with certain things. So
Wow.
for me, brewing up there in the middle of nowhere, where I'd order my grain, it would get on a boat in Seattle, come up to Anchorage, then get on a truck, then go up past the brewery all the way up to Fairbanks. I could literally watch the truck go past me. And then 2 days later, it would come back down on another truck. So it was, around here, I can order grain. It'll be here in 2 days. Up there, it's probably minimum was 2 weeks.
Oh, jeez.
So, it really taught me how to be planful. It taught me how to like work on the fly and learn to work with less. And I think that was a fascinating experience. And also, being able to brew the beers that I wanted to brew, because David and I had shared such a vision about what we wanted to see. So being able to get in on the lager thing early on and brew those beers and refine them. And it was a huge opportunity to learn on somebody else's dime.
Nice.
Right.
And do it in a beautiful place. And it was maybe the best part about it was they were seasonal when we moved up there. So the brewery was open from April to November.
Okay.
So we worked the first season, and really I was only supposed to be up there the first 5 months. That was the plan. We go up 5 months and then we come back. But it turned into 5 years. And so we'd go up for the season. I'd go up usually in February, get everything started. I'd usually be out of there around the end of November. So then it gave me about 3 months to do whatever I wanted to do.
Now, so that means you guys weren't operating when it was dark 24/7.
Correct. We were operating when it was light out until 2 a.m.
And what did that do to the drinking patterns when it was light out 24/7?
Yeah, I was accredited to a lot of newborn babies.
I was going to say,
Is there a lot of J's out, like named after you?
Not mine.
Not
That's-
yours.
just clarify.
Just
But you can that's great, because in Alaska during that time period, it's always day drinking.
Oh yeah, I mean I'd work a
day drinking at midnight.
Yes.
You're day drinking.
It was, because it was everything was crammed in. Like I was working 6-7 days a week, working 12-hour shifts, but I'd finish a 12-hour shift and be able to go sit out on the deck in the sunshine at 9 o'clock at night and drink a beer.
Right.
it was glorious, man. It was
Nice.
you can't beat it. You know, I'm super grateful that I had that opportunity to go work
That's
up
awesome.
there.
That's really
with
awesome.
Those guys.
I loved hearing that. That's great.
And so 5 years, and in that time, like when we had off in the winter time, we traveled. We were back in California for a while. Michelle went back to school. I was able to get back to Germany and Belgium for a 6-week jaunt with David. Visited about 60 different breweries in that time. Really kind of honed in on some stuff, and it was an awesome time,
Nice.
but not really sustainable, I guess, as a lifestyle.
Which is a shame.
It is, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I could go back to it now. You know, it was great having that time, but now it wears on you. It's super extreme, and
Sure.
being
Absolutely.
in it was nonstop. It was nonstop for those 8 months that we were there.
I'd
you
like to
needed
do that for
time
like
to
2
cleanse.
weeks. Did you get him, John?
No, this mosquito
No.
just keeps flying around. I can't.
It was a mayfly an hour
it's
ago.
a mosquito. I think I got him. I think I got him on that one.
So you got
So,
the
yeah,
problem that I had 2 weeks ago when that thing flew like right across my camera. Thing looked like a vulture.
It did. That was true.
It was this big.
But,
So
so then, you know
out
what?
of Amesbury.
Before we get to Amesbury, let's open.
Oh.
You got a second beer to open?
What do you think I leaned over? I just
Yeah.
got a beer fridge. It sits right next to the
It's a
desk.
beautiful thing.
So anytime I do this, I'm grabbing another beer.
There you go. That's why I figured so.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling I know what you're opening on this one.
And Jay knows what I'm opening too.
Yeah.
It's
and
this beauty. It's this beauty right here.
there
Oh
you
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I will be having plenty of that when I see you in a little over a month.
Oh, we're gonna put this into what is this? A Schneider Weiss glass.
Oh, really? You're using a
That'll
Schneider
work.
Weiss glass for this?
Yeah, I'm gonna use a Schneider Weiss glass for this
Yeah. I thought you were
because
using
I
it-
like the shape of it, especially for Schwartz beer.
Gotcha.
And I over poured the hell out of it, but that's all right. We'll let that head come down. I poured the first one beautifully, and
You did. Well,
Liz
you
poured the hell out of that
Liz
one.
poured the hell out of that one. So why don't you, while I pour my beer, which I will show you right now, I'm drinking a dark lager as well, but I'm drinking a Czech dark lager. It's from Grist House in Pittsburgh. Good Birdhouse.
It's a good birdhouse.
So I'll throw that one up. It's actually a collab with Birds Fly South Ale Project in Greenville, South Carolina, and Good Word Brewing in Duluth, Georgia.
So while you're pouring, Jay, we call it Liz pour because I lived in Rhode Island for a year. Actually, I moved to Rhode Island, and then the pandemic began. So, but luckily I had gotten to all the breweries by then and got a little bit into the beer culture there. And there's someone who's very well known in the Rhode Island beer culture. Her name is Alright Liz on Facebook. And she has this habit of just really exuberantly pouring her beers. So she always pours the hell out of them. And in Rhode Island, almost anybody that is regular in the breweries know what Liz pour is.
Got
So
it.
we're taking the term nationally. We don't think she's ever watched the show. But
Actually, that's not true. She has watched the show. And we had
Shauna.
No, we had Greg.
We had Greg on.
We had Greg on. Greg.
That's right.
Greg Taylor is one
Source.
of the is the head brewer at the. Well, he's actually down. They opened up another location down in Fishtown in Philly, but over here, not too far from me in Colts Neck.
My
mom lives right there. I've been to Source. It's a really cool spot.
And you guys have very similar. That was the word I'm looking for. I just lost one of my vocabulary words. Sensitivities when it comes to beer. You know, the staff there is trained to slow pour.
Sure.
So, and you know, he's got that lager tank that goes right. The taps come right out of the lager tank.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
It's a beautiful space too.
It is really nice space.
You don't really expect it in Jersey, but
no,
it's beautiful.
And then Greg's cousin is Liz.
Okay.
So, she did watch that show.
That's true.
So when Greg from Source was on, she did watch that show. So.
Yeah, she probably didn't watch any of the shows where we had a Rhode Island brewer on, though.
Not at all. No. Cheers.
Prost.
Prost.
And again, this held up too, Jay. I mean, it's got the coffee notes are still there. That beautiful roastiness, that touch of sweetness, that creamy sweetness to it.
Yeah, that's a fan favorite around here. We struggle to keep that beer on, And I've got customers that'll only come into the brewery when that beer is on, which is insane to me.
Well, please try to have it on November 5th.
All right. I think the guys just brewed it on Monday, so I think you'll be in luck.
There you go.
There you go.
You'll be in luck. But yeah, so after our time was up in Alaska, we made a quick detour to San Diego. I had a contract gig there.
It's not a bad detour.
It's not a bad
not
detour
at
at all. No, not at all.
Well, we were still kind of figuring out what we wanted to do and where we wanted to be. Because originally, one of our ideas too was, hey, maybe we want to be back in California, open a place there. The only problem with that is there's not really any water in California, and you need water to make beer. So
no, that's been a problem for quite a many years at this point.
Yeah, so it was San Diego was great, kind of reinvigorated me a little bit. Being back in a place where there were so many breweries and there was a culture that was already built up in San Diego, because there's so many places that have been operating for years. And at that point, we decided that Amesbury was going to be the spot. And it was because we had traveled up here a couple times in our time in Alaska. We had come through here 2 or 3 times and really kind of fell in love with the area and the.
Time out a second. How do you, on your way to Alaska, you went through?
Well, just in the off season.
Okay. All the traveling around in the
Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to figure out that doesn't work on the map. You know me and maps, John.
Yeah.
I immediately go to a map. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
You go into the
so
map.
off-season travels, and we really fell in love with the area. Kind of the quality of life was a big thing. For us, opening a place, it was all about lifestyle and being able to live the lifestyle that we wanted to, not just to open a business and bust our asses. Which we still do, but it checked all the boxes. It was close to home in New York, just far enough away where, maybe I didn't have to go home for every baby birth.
Right.
But we still could, still close to my mom. My mom comes up here all the time.
Good.
The local farms, being close to the ocean. And there was opportunity. We saw a big opportunity in Amesbury. At the time, there was no brewery in Amesbury. There had been a couple that had opened early on and closed or had moved. Riverwalk, which is over in Newburyport. Those guys are really good friends of ours. They got their start right across the river from us in Amesbury there, in one of those spaces. But when we were looking, there was no breweries. And it kind of a light went off. And we're like, okay, this is going to be the spot. We're going to do what we want to do here. And finding the building that we're in was fortuitous because it just lent itself to the style and the feel that we wanted to create with the beers and the service and everything. And I knew that I wanted to go lager heavy. I knew I didn't want to brew an IPA because I didn't want to have an ale yeast in house. I wanted to focus on having a couple different lager strains, having the farmhouse strains, not be beholden to having an ale strain and then making, blonde ales. And I was past that kind of point in my brewing career. I brewed enough of those when I was up in Alaska.
Right.
And and there's so many amazing breweries up here making IPAs. I mean, the whole New England IPA revolution, there's so many breweries doing it that we felt we could build a niche not doing it, kind of going against the grain a little bit. And so far it's worked out. There were people taking bets when we were opening and saying, okay, it'll, how many weeks until these guys make an IPA? But we've been holding steady and we still make hop forward beers, using our lager strains and we have those options, but we're really focused on the traditional styles and recreating again what Michelle and I what we've experienced in Europe. We really want to create that feel for people, not having TVs in the tap room, having communal seating. It's what we really we're striving for when the concept of Savaticus came about, and we're still holding steady, sticking to our guns, as I like to say.
Explain the word
Silvaticus. Okay, so anybody opening a brewery these days, maybe the hardest thing to do is picking a name. I would have to say.
Yeah, that's been a common theme on our show. Names.
We had there was a friend that helped, was a trademark lawyer, and he's like, yeah, I'll help you guys pick a name, but it's nothing that can be in any of the three realms of beer, wine, spirits. He said anything that's even close, if it comes up in the test database, I'm not going to touch it for you guys. And we were like, okay, that makes sense. So we went through a list of about 1,000 names. So I still have the list. Like it's like legal pads worth of names.
Wow.
Going through them, you come up with a good one. Oh man, I think I got it. You go ahead and Google it, and it's like, oh shit, somebody made that beer, in Western Massachusetts, or so there's a brewery that name, in Oklahoma, right? Like there's so many breweries now. It's just, and one of the names that I was really kind of pushing for was Savage, because in our time in Alaska, we were right outside Denali National Park, and the first kind of point and where you can drive to is Savage River. And
Okay.
Michelle and I used to hike there quite often, almost every Sunday. The Savage tributary there, and hike along the river. It's really kind of picturesque and beautiful. And it was 15 minutes from the house. And when we could escape, we would always kind of escape there to kind of reset. So Savage was was kind of up there. And we looked at maybe Sauvage, which is the French iteration. And
Yes, and Star Wars fans know Sauvage as well. But Savage, your brewery, I'm glad you didn't go there because your brewery and your beers are refined.
Thank you.
So I don't think Savage would have been an appropriate representation for what you've accomplished.
So if you follow the etymology of Savage back, you come up with Savaticus. So Savaticus, the literal translation is of the wood. And we also had aspirations, and still do, of kind of focusing on more oak fermentation, which we're slowly coming into our own with in our basement space. But the wood thing, still had the tie to Savage River, Alaska. My back again, before I was a brewer, I was a carpenter and a cabinet maker. So from the wood, kind of that transformation, it kind of had some meaning to me. And surprisingly, Savaticus
double entendres
didn't come
are
up
always
in the
a good
test
thing.
database for trademark names. Go figure. So it was. We liked it. It didn't roll off the tongue at first, and there was a lot of hesitation because we all thought that people would butcher the name. But at the end of the day, it worked for us, and we kind of fell in love with it, and it's been great. It stands out. I like it. It's strong. It's classic. It feels good. It still feels like it represents what we do.
And not for nothing. And this is going to sound, John's heard this before because I said this to Bellflower when they were on. I do a lot of my research when I'm traveling on Google Maps. Mm-hmm. And so I will see things. And the Google Maps on my account knows me. As I start scrolling through, it pops up all the breweries. Mm-hmm. Those are like the first things that pop up. And as I was going along the 95 corridor on the way home from Maine, and I expand out a little bit, and I hit Amesbury, and there's three dots there. One isn't brewing there anymore, but your neighbors over at Beowulf.
Yep.
And then I saw this name, Brewery Silvaticus. Like, that's a cool name. There's some class there. When they went Latin, but it's just the name to me actually sparked my interest. It's like, what are these guys about? That's a cool name. Let's see what these guys are about.
Yeah.
So I think you did a nice job of picking the name.
That's awesome. It really is.
Thanks. We're happy with it. Like I said, we're no regrets.
Yeah. I mean, the story thus far. I mean, we're not even done talking right now, but the story thus far is just amazing. Really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to take a trip out. Obviously we're coming up there, but I want to take a trip to Alaska now. So.
Yeah, I've already written 49th.
You got to go there.
49th State Brewing on a pad of paper here.
Yeah.
I'll pitch an Alaska trip to Cary a little later.
There you go. But all right, so talk about the building a little bit more. I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but so you found the building and you just fell in love with it. You knew it. So talk about it. Talk about the history of it.
And so the building, the space had been the boiler room for all the mill buildings there, and the
The space, the building you're in, was the boiler room for all of the mill buildings around.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And the owner, Dan, was kind of holding that space for something special. He had revamped a lot of those buildings and kind of turned them around. And before my time, I've heard stories of Amesbury and what the area looked like down there before the revitalization. And Dan was a big part of like turning that part of the lower mill yard around and renovating those buildings and bringing in different businesses. And there's a lot of offices in there and artist space.
Nice.
But that space, the boiler room, was he knew what he had there. It was something special, and he was holding on to it for the right business, something that could kind of anchor the lower mill yard. And we were fortunate that he kind of, he chose us to take that space, that he believed in us, to our vision and what we could do to that space. And he's to this day a good friend and confidant, and really grateful that he was kind of put his faith in us, and hopefully we've made him proud and kind of rewarded him for it. So
nice.
It's a beautiful space. Like I said, not the best logistic as far as brewing beer. All of our storage is in the basement. There's no access down there except for a regular, like a 32-inch door. So every bag of grain gets hoofed down, every keg gets rolled down,
Really?
Everything gets moved back and forth multiple times.
That would explain some of the big burly guys you've hired.
The brewers workout is a thing.
Do they really need to, though? I mean, working is, Yeah.
Well, besides just the leader curls, it's there's more to it.
Different too. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's for a retail space. It sang to us when we walked in there, and high ceilings, exposed brick, the natural light is fantastic.
Oh, those windows!
I can work in there all day and not turn the lights on. I mean, I love it because I'm inspired every day when I walk into that space.
Yeah.
I never feel like, oh shit, I got to go to work today. Like, that space is incredible. It's like my church.
I would say when Carrie and I walked in, we looked around and went, "This place is cool. This place is cool."
Yeah, got to get there.
And we thought about some other improvements or like change some stuff, but the space it didn't really need much. We didn't have to revamp. We did all the build out, and I went through like 5 or 6 different layouts of where I wanted to put everything and how I could maximize the space and seating. And we're really happy with where we landed with having the long bar, that kind of separates the tap room from the brewhouse, and having the main bar with the back with the boilerplate there as a centerpiece, and then just letting the high ceilings and the natural light and kind of speak for themselves. And then at night, we just did a couple touches of uplighting all around, and some nice chandeliers that come down that give it a really beautiful, beautiful feel at night.
Nice.
It's a total different space at night, which is really cool too. So we love it. It's living, it's breathing. It does its part. It makes the beer taste better. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
Yes, the experience definitely adds to the enjoyment of the beer. And I'd still think your beers are fantastic even if I wasn't drinking them there, because I'm drinking them here and out of a can. I still think they're fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Now, you did all this moving around. You did working up at 49th State. Michelle worked there as well. Does she work at the brewery?
She did. So she worked the first year. She was working, managing front of house, doing what she could, helping out in the office. I mean, those guys owned 6 different businesses. So 3-4 restaurants. They had a gas station. We housed and fed all the employees because of where we're located, and it's so seasonal. So Michelle basically became the camp counselor. She became HR, so she did all the hiring. Worked closely with David doing that, and dealt with everything, the good and the bad and the ugly. Like I said, housing, feeding, who's behaving themselves, who's not behaving themselves. And Alaska's I always like to put Alaska and the 49th State, to me, was always like the Star Wars cantina. You have so many different walks of life between the people that work there, the locals, the tourists. I mean, it was such a unique and diverse place in so many different ways. And we had we hired a lot of international students too, so it exposed Michelle to kind of she would do the hiring for J1s, which was the visa, because it was so seasonal. So we have all these international students that come over and work, jobs that they couldn't fill in such a short time period, because it was, again, it's seasonal and the location. And Michelle still works. Now she works on the other side. So she went from hiring them for the business. Now her other job besides the brewery is she works for an organization that is an agency that helps bring the students into the country. So she still gets to travel. She gets to travel pre-COVID. She's hoping to slowly get back to it, but travel all over the place, Eastern Europe, South America, Southeast Asia. She gets to kind of go and interview these students, and she still has all the accounts up in Alaska there. So it's still a part of us for sure. It's still a big part of what she does.
And what does she do at the brewery?
And Alaska will always be a part of what we do.
Oh yeah.
And what does she do at Savaticus?
But, it was a unique place, and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything.
Gotcha. What does Michelle do at the brewery for you?
I think it might be frozen.
No, you're not frozen.
You're not frozen. I guess you're just not hearing us.
You're not frozen. You just can't hear us.
Hold on a second.
You're not frozen. Very good. We're frozen for you. There you go. Hold on.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Now? Can you hear us now? You weren't frozen. We heard everything you said.
Okay, well that's good.
No, you didn't hear us for a couple minutes.
Yeah, we just thought you were ignoring us.
we were answering you, and you kept going. So.
No, we were asking. So, what does Michelle do at Savaticus?
Michelle does everything that I don't like to do, which is a lot. Michelle manages she takes care of the front of house stuff. Working with the bartenders, working with our making sure everything's right there. She does all the advertisement stuff. She does all the social media. She does all the events. We do a lot of different events. We have a lot of different food trucks that come through.
You had a pierogi truck when I was there.
Pierogi truck. There you go.
Polish Prince. Those guys are rad. We've been working with them for a long time. There she does, we do like dog adoption events, we do fundraising events, nice. We do all the things, and she does all of that and more. It's pretty incredible that she works 2 full-time jobs. I just hang around and drink beer.
Yeah. Cheers, Michelle.
Prost, Michelle.
Prost, Michelle. Yeah, prost.
It's Oktoberfest, John. Come on, get with the program.
I know.
And you're German. You're the.
I'm half German. So. But in any event, all right. All right. So let's talk about some of the beers. I mean, we've touched on a few of them or whatever, and of course your theory or whatever. But specifically, some of the stuff you have. Let's say what's on tap right now. That.
What's on tap right now? So Oktoberfest, like we were saying, brew once a year. One of our favorites. It doesn't last very long. If it lasts for 2 weeks, we're fortunate. Oblivion's on its way out. Black lager. Quintessential, the Pilsner, we try to keep on all the time. Mm-hmm. One of my favorites, Bacchanalia, is our oak fermented Saison. Okay. So we actually ferment in wine barrels, a combination of Merlot and Sauvignon Blanc. Nice. But the beer doesn't age there. It's just primary fermentation in the oak. So it picks up these really beautiful subtle notes of the tannins from the wood, the subtleness of the grape and the fruit from the wine that was in the barrels previously. Really nice and effervescent. It's really a beautiful beer, something that we've been brewing for a while. And
you have 2 different Saisons, or you blend those together and
yes. So we'll brew a batch. We'll split it into the barrels. We'll let it ferment out in the barrels, and then we'll take it, blend it back together again.
Nice.
And put it on. What else? Etymology, our Saison will be out probably tomorrow. And we've been COVID. One of the other things that COVID's kind of pushed us towards is really helped us to focus on bottle conditioning. Okay. So traditional method conditioning our Saisons and our Belgian beers in the bottle. And we've been working on it, trying out different techniques. over the last year and a half. And this batch of etymology will be the first batch of beer that we put out solely in bottles. So we'll be doing we'll have bottles to go, and we'll be doing bottle service in the tap room with it, which is really fun, and it's kind of unique. You don't see a lot of places doing it.
No.
But we we feel that beer is expressed best when it gets to go through a secondary fermentation in the bottle. It brings out certain nuances of the yeast that we really love, and it speaks to something that's on the traditional side, and we're really proud to be able to start putting that out in bottles, and we're kind of moving in that direction with all of our Belgian style beers. So we have a Belgian triple that'll be coming up, probably be ready around Thanksgiving. It's gonna get the same treatment, all bottle conditioned, bottle service in the tap room, bottles to go. Bacchanalia, the next batch of Bacchanalia is going to get that treatment. It's something that we're slowly we're building towards, and COVID gave us the opportunity where we weren't producing as much beer last year, so we had a little bit of time to experiment and had a little extra beer to kind of try some different things out. We did a bunch of different trials with different sugars, different sources, different yeast strains, and we think we've really kind of gotten it to a point where we're finally ready to put it out in the market as is.
I'd love to see more breweries bottle condition.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does change. It changes the beer. It changes the mouthfeel.
Totally.
It pops flavors.
Yeah, I'm a big carbonation guy. Like, my beers need to be carbonated. Even the lagers, we push them higher than what maybe traditionally you would see. And with our canning line, we're able to push a little higher volumes into the can, so it helps to kind of express that beer, help it keep it kind of fresh and tasting like you would taste it at the tap room, I feel like.
Nice.
But yeah, we've been able to, COVID was tough for everybody, but we feel like we use that time. We use that time constructively to work on some stuff that we were really, really pushing towards. So it's exciting to see what'll be coming up in the next couple months. We're excited with some of the beers coming out.
Great.
We've got a new. So one of my favorite styles is smoke beer.
Roush beer.
Roush beer.
We got invited to that group.
So we've got a new one.
Gotta get you in the group, yeah.
We've got a new one. Is that the John Hall group?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. I know. I've met John a couple times. He's a really rad dude.
John's a character and a half. He's great.
So that's one of my that's really one of my, like, it's kind of, it's here. That style is deep in my heart. I love it. Being up in Alaska smoked porter, being exposed to that.
Did you make it to Bamberg when you were in Germany?
Oh yeah, I've been to Bamberg 3 times. I think I've been there. Bamberg is I think that's where I'm going to retire.
Really?
Nice.
So you've been to Schlenkerla?
It's a different place. It's a magic place. So yeah, we've got a new smoke beer in the tank.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Spezial. Fessel, all those beers. I love it there. I love the concept of it. Smoke beer, and it kind of ties into from the wood for us again.
Absolutely.
Just triple entendre.
It's a triple entendre. Yeah.
And it's tough because it's funny because a lot of talking to a lot of other brewers, they always seem to be hesitant to brew the style because they can't sell it. That's what I've always heard. It's like, man, like, how long? It must sit on tap for like 8 months. And I'm like, no, I think a batch for us might last like 6 or 7 weeks.
That's great.
Because we've built up a lot of trust with our customers, and something that, from the beginning, I kind of stressed that we, a lot of, opening breweries, there's all kinds of people, all walks of life opening breweries, right?
Yep.
And I was fortunate because it wasn't my first rodeo. I was able to experience doing it on somebody else's dime, dialing things in. So it really allowed us to hit the ground running in an area that I wasn't familiar with completely, with the beer scene. But I think by us being able to come out swinging when we first opened with the beers we were producing, we were able to gain a lot of trust with our customers really quickly. And being able to do that then it allowed us to kind of spread our wings and expose everyone to some other styles that maybe they wouldn't not necessarily would be their first or second or even third choice.
Right.
Right. And that kind of led into the, pushing into the smoke beers, and exposing people to that style. And it's another one where I get questions. There's a handful of people all the time. They're like, when's the smoke beer coming back? When's it coming back? And when it comes on, we do, one of the fun things we do is we have 2-liter boots. Nice. Because we couldn't help ourselves.
Right.
And it's fun. Love seeing those boots going out. Everybody likes to see it. Everybody gets excited. I love seeing somebody order a boot of smoke beer and just putting it back. That to me is a sight to behold. It's a style, again, it's near and dear to my heart, and I'm excited that we're putting another one out in the next couple weeks.
I wish I could get up there.
Yeah, definitely.
Wish I could get up there.
If you're gonna have it out, if you're gonna have it out in the next couple of weeks, that's perfect, because if it lasts 6 or 8 weeks.
Oh yeah, it'll be here when you're here, Johnny, for sure.
I gotta start looking at how much time I've got left off from work. So I really, really need to get back up there. Not only was the brewery, but you talked about Amesbury, and just drive through Amesbury, driving along 150 on the way out of there. It's a beautiful town.
It really is.
Carrie pulled up Zillow, looking at prices of houses up there.
Of course, yeah.
No. It's still Massachusetts. I think it was when she was looking at property tax more than anything.
Oh yeah, you don't want to look at the property tax.
Yeah,
no.
That's New Jersey's really not that much different.
No.
It's different, but it's not that much.
It's
different.
not. It's not. Well, and everything's so crazy right now. All the prices are. It's insane to see what some houses are going for.
It's starting to relax a little bit, but not much.
No.
It's definitely a seller's market right now. You can't buy right now. You can't.
We were fortunate. We bought our place a little over 2 years ago, and we got in at just the right time.
Yeah, that's perfect timing.
And if we were looking now, we would never be able to afford this place. Yeah. So we were fortunate, but it'll come back down.
Yeah.
But Amesbury is unique too, because there's not a lot of inventory in Amesbury. There's about 14,000 people, but there's not a ton. So you don't see a lot of houses, even in normal times come up. I remember when we were looking, and it's New England, right? So everybody goes into semi-hibernation for the winter time. So right before Christmas, that's when you see houses available, and then we wouldn't see anything for 2 or 3 months.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, middle of March, first houses start coming on. We're like, oh, cool, there's an open house on Saturday. Let's go check it out. Yeah. Looked like there was a house party going on. You pull up and there's 20 cars out front, people coming and going out of every orifice in that building.
Right, exactly.
And you're just I'm not going in there with all these people. It's crazy, but it's crazy everywhere right now from what I hear from everybody.
It is. No, it's everywhere. I can tell you stories down here too.
We're thrilled with Amesbury. It's such a beautiful town.
It
is quintessential New England, to coin the term. And
there you go.
You should name a beer that.
You should name a beer quintessential.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. I think.
You should know that.
How do you
maybe make a pilsner.
Quintessential.
Make a pilsner.
I've got it right here.
So, speaking of beer, are you having a third, Dave?
I'm going to have a third, but I'm going to have a third when it comes. Well, this is the way we're going to segue into me opening that third beer, because it's going to segue us into the threes.
Well, we were going to open the beer first and then just use that as a segue, but you didn't have to actually announce that it was the segue.
But I do that. I do that. That's my thing. I like to announce segues, because the first thing I want to do is, it's kind of a congratulations to Jay here, because John, tell us what the top threes are. First of all,
we're not even. We're going to get to it in the next few minutes. We're not going to start now.
Then I'm not going to open the third beer until.
Well, I want to open my third beer because I'm thirsty.
This is called not too much planning before the show.
Oh, shut up and open your beer, will you?
I don't understand how the hardest part for you guys is opening beers.
We're opening the same beer. Okay.
No, we're not opening the same beer.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yes,
are.
we are opening
We
the same
open the
beer.
same
That's
beer,
right.
yeah.
He really wants this. So, as I mentioned, we were in Maine. John and I wound up in Portland, Maine. Actually the same day. He got there the day before,
I
but
got the day before, yeah.
we were there the same, and we stayed a day later. But one of my favorite breweries up there is, kind of along the lines of what you guys do, and that's Bunker.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Love those guys, love what they do. And they had just put out Oktoberfest.
Nice.
Now keep in mind, it was on pallets canned the day I was there, but they couldn't do anything with it because it wasn't being released till the day after when he was there.
That's
actually it was being released the day after I was there, actually, and I just managed to smuggle a couple out.
Well, I tried to, and Ian couldn't do anything about it. So,
had you guys ever been to their original location, which they're not at anymore?
No. The first time I went, they were at the location they are now, just a spit's throw away from Bissell.
Yeah,
there's not a more apropos name than Bunker for the name of the spot that they were in originally. It was like this little brick building fortress. I mean, the space inside couldn't have been more like 25 by 25, maybe.
God, that's a beautiful color.
The first time I went there was literally right after they moved to the location they're in now.
But there's a reason we're opening these beers, right, John?
There is a reason we're opening these beers, and Jay's already had an Oktoberfest. He's had his own Oktoberfest, and you and I. I've had a Zwickel beer and a dark Czech lager, and you've had a Pilsner and a Schwarzbier. So, and what is this time of year? I mean, it's usually a couple years ago. It started on this day, but it always starts right around this time of year, and that would be
fall.
Yeah, but also
football season
has to do with the harvest moon, and actually, technically, has to do originally with a wedding.
A harvest moon. Oh, you're talking
pumpkin beer.
Young.
Pumpkin beer. Must be pumpkin
pumpkin
season,
beer.
Yeah. Oktoberfest, folks. Oktoberfest. Our top three list tonight, and I'll throw it up on the screen. And by the way, this is the beer that Samurai and I are drinking right here, Oktoberfest.
Martzen.
Martzen, to be exact. Martzen. So this is our top three list tonight. Is top three. Oops, that's not it.
No, that was last week.
Man,
we're having technical difficulties.
No. That's because
you're so distracted by that mosquito.
I reset it afterwards. There we go. It's top three favorite Oktoberfest beers. There we go.
Now I'm trying to think of my top three Chicago beers, though.
Well, ironically, though, I could tell you one of my top three Chicago beers was a Revolution. So
okay,
yes,
last week we'll talk about that later.
But as I was going for before, there is a congratulatory to Jay because Hop Culture had their own list. How they arrived at 13, I don't know, but they put up their top 13 Oktoberfest beers. They got some of the traditionals, Hofbrau and Paulaner, Spaten. Okay, that's all beautiful. And then there's some of the modern versions they love. It's another brewery from Massachusetts. But the second one listed would be right here.
There you go.
That looks familiar.
That looks familiar. It might be. Did you drink? I think you drank one of these at the top of the show. It says Brewery Silvaticus ales and lagers from Amesbury, Massachusetts. Named one of the top breweries of 2018. Savaticus brews an excellent Oktoberfest, and there's a whole lot more there. Check out Hop Culture. Check out their 13 top Oktoberfest beers, and read all about the Oktoberfest.
Read all about it.
Yes.
Cheers. You drink to that.
Cheers.
Prost. Yes.
Prost.
So. Congratulations for those honors.
Jay.
Thank you.
Because
I'm bringing out of my Shredded Ice glass right now.
Oh, that's a beautiful glass. Yeah, some really cool person must have got that for you.
Some really cool guy got that for me.
Yeah. So you're on the list with Schilling's Constantine.
I was just there this past weekend.
Did you? Speaking of smoke beers, did you? Because Schilling just released their Rausch beer too.
I didn't have the Rausch beer. I did have the Augustine, and I had their their foeder aged
Ooh.
fest beer.
Fooder aged fest beer,
yeah.
really?
Ooh, that's
Just
interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really cool because we do.
Why do I
something,
not live in New England? What is this?
That's up in New Hampshire. That's up not too far from Canada.
It's up there. Yeah, we were up in Vermont for the weekend. We finally got away.
Yeah, it's right near the border. Yeah, so.
And we were passing through Littleton, so we had to stop at Shilling.
Shilling's closer to. I mean, you're right near New Hampshire where you are.
Yep.
But Shilling's closer to Hill Farms than it is to you. So
They are for sure.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if their smoke beer was done intentionally or they were mashing in when the fire occurred.
Oh, jeez. That's just wrong, Dave.
I know. Hey, no one was hurt. It was very little damage. We can joke about
There
it.
you go. All right.
But yeah, no, this is a good. 3 Floyds is on this list. Urban Chestnut, Live Oak. So yeah, and
Urban Chestnut's a good one. That's one of
Yeah.
theirs. Wickle beer was one of my favorites. It's been a while since I've had that.
They've got some great beer
every one
breweries
of
on
these
here, and
styles.
you're on there.
Yeah, I mean, I could literally, I love IPAs, but I could drink German styles and all different German styles all day long, every day, all year long. It's
That's the point.
Yeah,
Well, it's in your blood, John.
well, that is technically, but
Was the thing you were talking about earlier, Jay, about not brewing an IPA, and people, taking bets how long it would take you to brew an IPA. But if you look at it now, there's been so many generations now involved in craft beer.
Mm-hmm.
And, the generations coming into drinking now and the one before that were actually came into age in the craft beer age, right?
For sure.
Whereas you take, we didn't. We watched the craft beer revolution happen. Rode the wave, came in, and so then IPAs came along. We all became hop heads. We got into our IPAs, and then when you've been in as long as we have, the mosquito's still bothering you,
it is.
John?
I think I just got it that one.
You thought so last time,
I
anyway.
did. I did.
But then you get to the point where you want something different, and you're trying every new crazy thing that comes out. But I think our generation is starting to get back to the point like we just want something like this.
Yeah.
And so you're starting to see our generation get into these beers, and you're starting to see more of these brewed. And they're being accepted, and they're successful now, and that's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, beer is such a social beverage, and to me, there's some great IPAs out there. There's some guys that are doing some amazing stuff, but I don't want to sit down and drink a 7 or 8% beer. I want to sit down and drink a couple 4.5%, 5% beers. I want to have that whole session mentality. Sit down, shoot the shit, enjoy it, talk to people, live in the moment, like be there and be present, and still be able to get up and drive home.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's and that was a big part of it. And also, and as a business owner, I want to sell you 2 or 3 beers and a pretzel. I don't want to sell you one beer and
exactly.
you stumble out of here.
Exactly.
Sue me. So
no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
So as much as I tried to segue and rush the top threes, I've now derailed the top threes, have I not?
Well, it's fine because we weren't going to go right into them anyway. So we're going to go into them now, though. But no, I agree with you 100%. That's the thing to do. I mean, look at all the beers we drank tonight. I mean, the first beer I had was a Zwickel beer, and it was 3.9%. Fours. The highest beer between Dave and I is this one right here. It's 6.3%. Yeah,
6.3.
But,
and there was a time where 6.3 was considered a heavy beer.
6.3 was a hugely heavy beer. Now it's a sessionable beer.
Yeah. Well, depends on who you are.
Well, it depends. I mean, on the curve, if you will.
Yeah.
It's not a sessionable beer for me. I'm just saying on the curve. People look at, it's only 6.3%. Give me 3 of them. Yeah. So.
It's probably a sessionable beer for Gene.
Exactly. So anyway, yeah, exactly. And he just messaged something, but I'll leave that alone.
Yes.
In any event, so why don't we do the top threes? We'll talk a little bit after we come out of the other side of the top threes. Once again, our top 3 list tonight is top 3 favorite Oktoberfest beers, and our guest of honor, Jay, please go first with yours.
We did tell Jay that he wasn't allowed to use his own beer. because we know it's
No,
fantastic.
we told him he could use his own beer. We're not
Well,
going to
did
use
we?
his beer.
Oh, we're not going to.
If
Well,
he
'cause we
wants to
haven't
use
had
if he wants to use his as number one, that's absolutely fine. Because
I'm not
he can
gonna. I'm not going to use mine. There's
There you
plenty of them out there. I don't need to. I do drink other beer occasionally than my own. So top three, I would have to say, number three for me would be Spaten Oktoberfest as a sentimental choice.
Sure.
I feel like that's one of the first Oktoberfests I had years ago because it was available. That and Spaten Optimator were always kind of out there on the shelf somewhere.
Right.
And it was one of those beers. I had one recently, and it was a case of, man, this beer. I remember this beer being better, but it's still a tasty. But it's still a tasty beer, and I'm sure it's still delicious at the source.
Right.
Number two, Hacker Shore Oktoberfest, a little darker, definitely more in the beautiful malt notes. Again, had one recently. We have a habit of finding, when we're working on beers, to find as many examples as we can and kind of roll through them, and just to kind of calibrate our palates and see where we're at and see what we could be doing better, because it's all about always improving the beer.
It's back to that quality control job, right?
Totally, exactly. It is, and it's a big part of it. The beer can always be better, and a big part of that is research and development. So we do a lot of research, as the industry joke goes. So Hacker Shore, really beautiful beer, surprised me. But I remember when we were in Germany, really enjoying the Hacker Shore beers and being in the tap room there. And then my number one right now, it's going to sound funny and it might be weird for you guys, but Sierra Nevada Oktoberfest is fucking, man, it is so good. I love their lagers. I love their Summerfest. Mm-hmm. And I'm a bit of a Sierra Nevada whore, coming of age of beer, living in California, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. But there's something about that beer, like it's maybe not the most traditional, but it has that, like, they do it in their own way, where like it's uniquely Sierra Nevada, but it's also uniquely an Oktoberfest, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Now they do a collab every year with a German brewery. They didn't this year.
Yeah. So it's been a little different. The one this year was outstanding, and I love that they collaborate with traditional breweries. Like last year, I think it was it Bitburger, maybe?
Last year was Bitburger,
yeah. And I love it. And whatever lager yeast they're using, I love it. I'd love to get my hands on that yeast.
You and everybody else.
Well, we don't think they stole that one from Jersey.
No, they did not.
No.
Chico was, but
Chico was, but that other one, no. So
that's my top three.
There you go.
Right now.
Samurai, go for it.
So, as you know, the listeners and John are used to, I rarely do a 1, 2, 3 or a 3, 2, 1. I usually categorize.
Yep.
And I've done so here as well. So I decided to do
Shocker.
Two Germans. So I wanted, because we know that there are, you talk about an Oktoberfest beer, you're talking about two different styles, right? The Märzen and the Fest beer. Mm-hmm. Right. The Märzen was more traditional, but then they who was it? Was it Paul Anna? Yeah, it was Paul Anna in the 70s introduced the Fest beer. It was lighter in body, a little lighter in alcohol, definitely lighter in color, still had a nice malt character. It became a lot easier to drink. So when you're just lifting up steins of beer and just tossing them back, this is really what you want to put down rather than going through steins of Märzens, because that's going to floor you after a little, maybe 1 or 2 steins. So
it's just heavier. It's not necessarily higher ABV. It's just a heavier.
Yeah, it's true.
Heavier beer.
So hard,
malt-wise.
Yeah, so you're not going to drink may not be able to drink as much. So, and it's like, as usual,
you can drink more of it.
Right.
You can drink more, so you can sell more beer. So it's a little
good
bit
thing for brewer.
There's a yin and a yang to everything.
So as usual, John and I, compared notes beforehand. But for Fest beers, he let me have my first choice for Fest beer, and my favorite Fest beer out there is, it's the OG. Well, not the OG because that's Paul Anner, but the OG brewery, Weihenstephaner. their fest beer is just so eminently drinkable. It just showcases the German hops in such a beautiful way, and I love that I can toss back so much of that. Then we get to the Marzen, and I'm letting John have the number one because we agreed on that one as well. So I'm going with the Schneider Weiss, the Schneider Weiss Marzen. I started going through and scrolling through all the Marzens I've had. That one, that was definitely one of my favorites. Absolutely one of my favorites. So those are the two German beers on the list for me. But I had to put an American one on there.
Of course.
Right. And we may have lost Jay temporarily.
He's spinning. He's still spinning. And
this thing's kissing his tail.
And he's coming back on a different feed. And there he is. And he's back.
There he is. Okay. We lost you briefly.
That had nothing to do with your beer choices.
I don't believe you.
Do you not like my beer choices? But so those are the two Germans. So the American one, and as everyone knows, it's supposed to be top threes, but John and I have a way of sneaking in more than three with honorable mentions. Because living in Rhode Island for a year, Shades On has a really nice Oktoberfest. They do some great German styles there. I love their Schwarz beer. That one's fantastic. Bunker, we've already mentioned them, so I don't need to mention them again, but I did anyway. But my favorite U.S. Oktoberfest is a play, and it's Firestone Walker's Oktoberfest.
All right.
Oh, God, it's an Oktoberfest. They've aged in oak barrels, and it pulls out some lovely notes out of the oak for it. Those guys, I think they know what they're doing. They might know what
Firestone
they're doing.
Walker?
Yeah.
They might have a little – they might be toddling a little bit.
Yeah, so those are my three.
All right. Mine, I kind of went in the same direction as Dave. Not exactly the same. I did a Germany, national United States one, and a local New Jersey one too. So my Germany is what he and I agreed was the best Märzen as far as we were concerned, and it's Eyinger. Eyinger Oktoberfest was the tops on that list for Germany, for German style anyway. Not German style, Germany brewed. National one would, you know what? I'm a big Sierra Nevada, like you said. You're a Sierra Nevada whore, so am I. This one just literally on a national level edges it out, and that's Left Hand. Left Hand actually makes a really good Oktoberfest.
Okay.
And it just for me, I mean, ever so slightly. I mean, it's not like it's like 1 and 1A. You know what I mean? But Left Hand would be the one for me. Left Hand Oktoberfest. And Sierra Nevada's there, and nationally too. I mean, Bell's Oktoberfest. Bell makes a really good
they do
Oktoberfest as well. But Left Hand's the one as far as national goes for me. And then local New Jersey, and I'm assuming you may have had this at some point or another. Ramstein.
I know the name. I don't know if I've actually had their Oktoberfest.
Greg brews. Greg Sicardi, Ramstein Brewing. It's High Point Brewing. Mm-hmm. Ramstein is the brand in Butler, New Jersey, not too far away from Cricket Hill, not that far. In fact, Rick Reed, when he first came back from brewing school or whatever, before he opened Cricket Hill, he actually interned at Ramstein with Greg.
Okay.
But he, whatchamacallit, he makes his Oktoberfest and it's Märzen. His Oktoberfest is lights out. It's so good. It's really
one of the two beers that people look forward to every year from that brewery. Their Oktoberfest and the Winter
Wheat. Yeah, the Winter Wheat. Those two beers are ridiculous. But yeah, Ramstein Oktoberfest is the local New Jersey one for me, and that's my top three. And let's give a nod because the beer it's solid. Let's face it, it's solid. And is it micro? Not even close. But
yes.
But it's solid. It's the same beer every year, as almost as if they brew it once and they just keep releasing more.
Their consistency is disgusting.
And it's Sam Adams. I mean,
I don't think I've drank any more of any one Oktoberfest than Sam Adams.
Best airport Oktoberfest.
There you go.
Perfect. That's a great way to put it.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the reason I say that is not to actually throw Sam Adams in there, because it's not like Jim Cook needs any plugs on this show by any means. But
These hair plugs.
but I said it as a segue really quick to get back to the Rausch beer discussion, and Dave and I were talking before.
Oh, God, yeah.
Have you ever had Cinderbach?
Again, I know the name. I don't know if I've had the beer.
It's a really, really good smoked beer.
That was fantastic.
Smoked Bach that they made. And they made it probably like, I don't know, maybe 6-8 years ago, I think, maybe, Dave?
Yeah, it sounds about right. And then they did a heavier version of it as well. I forget what it was called.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they did. They ramped it up a little. Now, when we go into the honorable mentions for Oktoberfest, especially in the German category, honorable mention, Hofbrau.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
So easy to drink.
And yeah, Hofbrau's is absolutely so easy to drink. And I was actually at July, mid-July, I was actually out in Pittsburgh, and Hofbrau has a location in Pittsburgh. And with the exception of 2 beers that they actually get from Germany, everything in Pittsburgh, they brew in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
They don't brew in Germany. And they had just brewed, here we go again, come full circle. They had just brewed a Schwartz beer. And amazing. It was really, really, really good. It literally was tapped, I think, like 2 days before I was there. So it couldn't really have been more fresh than it was.
So of course he took a picture and taunted me with that Schwartz beer.
Absolutely. So yeah. So your Schwartz beer taunt for me was just reciprocation for
It's just that's the thing.
A little reciprocity.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But you have to let me, when you get up there November 4th, you got to let me know how Oblivion stands.
The first thing I'm going to do, that's the first beer I'm going to have, followed by Quintessential. But that's
actually, what I would suggest
I'm going to do the other way around. Yeah, but when I have my Oblivion,
I did backwards.
When I have my Oblivion, the first thing I'm going to do before I even take a sip is take a picture of it and send it to you. So.
I'll tell you what, though, I would put Oblivion up against any Schwartz beer out there.
Did you have it on Nitro when you were here?
No. And I know that your clientele love it on Nitro, and that's awesome. But to me, I wanted it classic. I wanted it carved.
Yeah, it's two different beers. I can go either way. We usually the Nitro started as like a St. Patrick's Day thing for us.
Oh, makes sense.
It was like, hey, well, let's just have some fun with this and do it, and it became this cult. I don't want to say nightmare, but it's
cold nightmare
because now you're like, okay, well now I'm producing 2 different beers almost from the same batch of beer.
Yeah.
So it's we always pull a couple kegs and put it on Nitro because and those go first. Those are like in the first, like we'll go through 2 or 3 kegs in the first week, and then it's like, okay, then everybody settles into the CO2, which that beer, that's where it really shines to me. Right. The Nitro smooths it out. It's like nice and creamy, but you get all those beautiful nuances on CO2, and you almost get like, that dark chocolate, that little bit of coffee. You almost get this kind of like a little bit of like roasted coconut thing, which
absolutely. And the thing is, not for nothing, even on CO2, it's got a creamy feel to it.
Yeah.
Without overdoing that. And I wish that we were staying in the area. We're driving through. So I couldn't go through the whole repertoire that was on tap.
Yep.
I would have loved to.
And we don't do samplers because
exactly. Yeah, if you'd done this, but the thing is,
I'm unapologetic about the samplers. You want to have a beer, you order a beer.
And you know what? And I do samplers all the time, but for your beers, I think would be doing them an injustice, because again, the way the beer is poured is part of the experience of the beer that you make.
Well, here's my theory on samplers. So our staff is well trained. They're amazing, and they're there. You can try you can have a little taste of any of the beers you want, and if you're going to be that guy, they'll taste through the whole thing with you standing there, even if there's 12 people waiting behind you angrily for a beer. But the sampler thing is like, okay, here's 5 samplers, right? And say, you're right. The glassware is not the same. The experience is not the same. So say you like 3 out of those 5 beers, or 4 out of those 5 beers. So you like 60% of your experience at Savaticus because you ordered a sampler, and 3 of those beers are like, wow, these are great. And you're like, well, the other 2, they were okay. Right. Maybe because they weren't served proper. They weren't in the proper glassware. You didn't get them. You didn't have the full experience, or you saved one till the end. Or maybe you should have started with that one. Don't
Or you
start with the
should-
smoke beer.
or the one beer that you had stepped all over the next beer you had.
Right.
You know, you've
And
got to
so-
properly purge your palate.
Absolutely. So to me, it's like, no, you come in, you can taste whatever you want, but you got to order a full pint. You got to experience that beer. And that's because that's what beer is. There's no samplers in Germany.
No.
There's-
You're not getting a flight in Munich.
No,
You know,
definitely
not
not.
happening.
So like I said, I'm unapologetic about the sampler. I know there are a lot of people, say that it's the way to go, or they think they sell more beer, but not my thing.
No, but here's the other thing too. Like, I mean, a lot of people will get flights of, 10, 12, 14, 15% beers. You're not brewing 10, 12, 14, 15% beers.
Yeah.
So, they're drinking,
Well,
one flight of those, ABV beers is 3 of your full pours. So, like what's the difference really at that point when you're thinking about it like that?
And that's part, like Russian River, right? The first time I went to Russian River, you can order a sampler and they'll give you every beer that they have on. The first time I was there, they had 17 beers. So we
you got
sat at the table
17,
with two 17 beer samplers at a 2-top. I mean, it's
How do they present that?
How did
Is
it
it like
fit?
one
How
board
do you-
on a
Is it
stick?
hanging over each side or?
I could not tell you what 5 of those beers were
Yeah.
or how they tasted, because you get lost. I mean, okay, we live in America, right? Everybody wants choices. Everybody wants
Mhm.
whatever they can get their hands on, or they want the next new thing, right? Before, when we were open at Savaticus, I was moonlighting at one of the liquor stores in town here. And one of the guys I worked with, Bruno, he was an old timer, he said something that still sticks to me now. And he says, he goes, man, he's like, with all these beers now, he goes, there's no brand loyalty. He goes, everybody wants what's new and what's hot.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
he's like, I see it. He's like, I see these come in and everybody wants it for like 2 or 3 months. And then like it sits on the shelf for 6 months because everybody's moved on,
Mhm.
So
It's very few occasions is it not a what have you done for me lately kind of an industry.
absolutely.
And you know what? There's to that point. There are some breweries that were fantastic back in the day that have their beer hasn't gone downhill, but their following has gone downhill. Their sales have gone downhill because of that mindset.
Mhm.
And there's no greater joy than going back to one of those beers that you loved back in the day and remembering.
And rediscovering it.
One brewery, Jackie O's, was one.
Sure.
Where Jackie O's was like the big thing for the longest time, and then no one talked about them for almost a decade.
Right.
And a year ago, I picked up one of their stouts. Like, my God, they're still making great liquid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, if to our listeners, that's a challenge to the listeners right there. If there was a brewery that you loved back in the day, go find, and you're not drinking now, go back, find something.
And even if you haven't been drinking craft beer, if you haven't been in the community, if you will,
Yes.
that long, even if it's something a couple of years or whatever, go back to what you drank 2 years ago. I know it's very easy to say, okay, what's new? What's the newest thing? What's oh, that's new. Obviously, there's breweries opening up constantly. And that's great, and that's a beautiful thing for the industry because, and I've said this number of times, many times, and Dave will tell you I have. It's not about competition; it's about co-opetition.
Yep,
it really is. But you can't forget about like where you came from, so to speak. You can't forget about those beers that you were enjoying when you first started, whether you first started 2 years ago or 20 years ago. You can't forget about those beers because they were important to you then, and they should be. If they're still being brewed today and they're still being brewed as well as they were being brewed then, you should still be paying at least a little homage to them and revisiting them from time to time.
And the whole concept of drink local.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and see through the hype too. I mean,
Yep.
social media is an amazing thing
You think?
for small businesses, right? It's like for a small business like ours to have social media to be able to reach so many people for free is an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But there's so much hype out there, and there's so much. There's a lot. There's
I call it fanboyism.
Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
And it's not to say that these beers are not incredible and that they don't deserve accolades and praise, but you got to get past it, man. I mean, there's so many good beers out there. You got to drink through it. You got to kind of go to the
I
source.
like that. Drink
try
through it.
Drink through it.
Drink
Nice.
through it. I like that.
There's a life motto right there.
Go
Drink
to the
through it.
source. Drink the beer at the source.
Yep.
It's always going to taste the best there. Like,
Absolutely.
there's so many hidden gems. There's so many great beers out there. Beers come so far in the last 10, 15 years. When I started drinking craft beer, it was hit or miss. Like there was so many, the best education about brewing beer was going around and drinking beer because there were so many faults in all these beers, diacetylaldehyde, EMS, like it was an education, but
Sure.
now we've gotten to the point where, everybody's beers have gotten so much better. Like all of those things. Like I can't tell you the last time now I've gone to a brewery and picked up a beer and I was like, oh man, this has DMS in it. I get it every once in a while if I'm at a beer bar where they don't clean their lines.
Sure.
Right.
And in a beer that like it's happened to me with Allagash White, which is one of my absolute all-time favorite beers. And fortunate living in New England, like I can get it wherever I go and it always tastes amazing. Again, it's always best at the source.
Sure.
And getting up to Portland, Allagash is always our first stop.
Well, they open at 11, so
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. There you go. And
There you go, right there.
yeah, I've had it.
There we go.
Having an Allagash White at a reputable beer bar and having it taste like diacetyl, I know that beer didn't come out of the brewery like that.
No.
No, not at all.
Absolutely not. So though, but beer has come a long way. Craft beer has come a long way, and there's so much good beer out there.
But still, honor the roots. Like I've got a
Absolutely.
lot of people that I've kind of walked through the beer world,
Mhm.
through the craft beer. Meathead being one of those. John knows Meathead, and he knows I call him that. He loves that nickname.
He's not talking about Rob Reiner from All in the Family either.
No, but when he started getting in, when he got out of his hophead phase, and it's like I'm getting exhausted on these things. I said, well, we'll get you into the maltier beers, and so I introduced him to porters. What's the first porter I gave him? Anchor.
Sure.
Oh,
That's a
such good beer.
fantastic. It's one of the greatest porters ever brewed. It still is to this day.
Mhm.
A lot of people ignore it because it's Anchor.
That's right.
Yep.
They've been around since the 70s.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Do not ignore Anchor Porter. That is one of the greatest porters
It's
ever
amazing.
brewed.
That Anchor Porter and Black Butte.
Oh, God, yeah.
Those were two of my camping beers when we were living in California, hitting up all the national parks. Man, those beers were always in my cooler.
Oh, God, yeah.
Always. Black Butte Porter was and still is an outstanding beer. Like
Yeah,
when I go to Portland, Oregon, I have to,
You have to go to
get
Deschutes.
into Deschutes to have a
Yep.
Black Butte Porter.
I've never been to Portland, Oregon. I've never been to Deschutes, but Deschutes does have a pop-up in Denver. That anytime I'm in Denver, I'm sitting there and drinking nothing but Black Butte Porter. So.
Nice.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful beer.
I'm headed out to Portland in a couple weeks to brew with one of my good buddies out there. And one of my buddies from brewing school finally opened his own place, and we're actually brewing a smoke beer apparently, which will be
Nice.
fun. And then we're going to go out into the wilderness and do some camping, and
Nice.
get away from other things. Yeah,
So jealous. So
you,
jealous. Say hi to Bigfoot for me.
I will.
There you go.
I'll have a beer with him.
Did you whatchamacallit?
I hear he loves Black Butte.
All right, yeah. Are you on that group on Facebook, John Hall?
I think I just joined it yesterday.
Did you just join it yesterday?
It was funny. I watched. So I pulled it up, and my buddy Sean, Sean Burke, he just opened Foreland Brewing, and that's who I'm going out to brew with. And John interviewed him recently, so I was listening to that, and that's how I ended up signing up for the this week in Roush Beer.
And we just had Augie Carton on from Carton Brewing last week, who does Steal This Beer, the podcast with John Hall.
Okay.
And that was actually, from what Augie was saying, it was actually that Facebook page was actually started as a joke.
I'm sure.
And it just grew from there and went like that.
And I think Augie was in Seattle, right?
Augie was in Seattle. Yeah, he was on. He went out to CBC, and he was supposed to come home because he was scheduled for the podcast last Tuesday, and he wound up playing hooky and going up to Seattle. So he was actually standing outside, just drinking out this beautiful, gorgeous scenery behind him.
He was already about 20 beers in,
And
wasn't
he
he?
was at least 20 years in, yeah.
Even
So,
better. Good for him.
but
Gotta enjoy it.
we had him on because 3 weeks from tonight, on the 12th of
October.
12th of October, thank you. Tuesday, the 12th of October, we're actually doing a carton beer dinner with Augie. It's a Lagerroom Guys Carton Brewing beer dinner at the Cloverleaf Tavern in Caldwell, New Jersey. Not only a few miles from Cricket Hill in Fairfield. So we're actually doing the podcast live from there that night, and then it goes into a beer dinner.
Oh,
So
I'm looking forward to that.
Sounds like a fun time.
it's going to be a fun time. Yeah.
Did you make our reservations, John?
I've been working on it. Yeah. I think our reservations are the fact that we're doing the podcast there.
We might have a seat. We're apparently hosting it.
We're hosting it. Yes,
From the
that's our
parking lot?
reservations. In the parking lot, no,
They may actually, they got a huge tent set up in the parking lot behind.
not anymore.
Oh, they took they
It's
had
done, yeah.
the tent's down. Okay.
Tent's down. So
Oh,
it's just the regular area they have now. So they're back to that. So
Well,
but in
that's
any
more
event-
parking, so I guess that's good.
which is fine. Yeah, that's fine. So in any event, all right. Well, what's really quick to end it up? What's some future plans for Brewery Silvaticus?
Fuck, I'm going to relax for the rest of the year. It's been
Done. There you go. There's your
As
future
you
plans,
should.
folks.
You
now
deserve it.
that, now
That's it.
that
I'm
we're
out.
through the anniversary party, that's it. I'm
Yeah.
I'm coasting for the rest of the year.
Coasting,
No,
baby.
we're excited. We're excited to kind of come out of everything that we've been through the last year and a half,
Mhm.
and excited. Like I was talking about the bottle condition stuff. Excited about refining beers. Just excited about what the future is. Kind of showcasing what we can do, and focusing on Amesbury first and foremost, because
Right.
we're proud to be here, and we love this town, and it's such an amazing support group for us that we're first and foremost. Like I said, we don't distribute. You got to come here to get the beer. It's always going to taste better at the source, and we're excited to keep doing that. And we are working on a couple other things. Working on our barrel program. Working on getting some more stuff coming out of the wood from the wood, and just keeping on keeping on.
Now,
Very nice.
question for you, because I was researching it, I couldn't really come up with anything. If you don't have a food truck outside, best place to get lunch or dinner in Amesbury?
So
Throw
you
it out
can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with flatbread.
Okay.
Crave across the street is a good spot.
At the barn?
The barn is right across the street too. Stone's throw. Really good if you're looking for straight up bar food. That's the place to go. Cafe Molise. If you're looking for Italian food, like proper Italian food. Again, growing up in New York City.
I would say he's from
I
Staten
don't-
Island, so he knows proper Italian food.
Sure, absolutely.
Fat Cats is always well attended, and it's
That was on my list of possible places.
those guys have been around for a long time. It's a tiny place, but they
are the
do
best
some,
places.
some really good stuff.
yeah,
You know,
always.
it's cozy. Yeah, I mean, Amesbury isn't big, but we're a really tight community. If you're looking to grab some stuff to go, the bakehouse, sandwiches, if you're looking for chocolate, we're one of our good friends, Ovadia, the chocolatier we do a lot of work with.
Really?
They've got
Chocolate box? Did I hear a
amazing-
chocolate box coming?
Antoinette's a good friend of mine. She does a bunch of chocolates for us. We do with the beer, and we're working on some new projects. Today I just put a whole 44 pounds of chocolate into a Kings County bourbon barrel for future use at our most likely at our beer and chocolate pairing, which we traditionally do every Valentine's Day.
All right.
Oh, okay. Now I
Write
know
that
when I need
down.
to get back up to
February, we
Amesbury.
need to
We got
be
a
in
pen here.
Amesbury. So.
From
Got a
the wood.
Cloverleaf pen.
From the Wood has a lot of different meetings, so we're working on expanding that.
For Valentine's Day, I guess that we've now gone to a quadruple entendre.
Exactly. And there are others, I'm sure, that we haven't uncovered yet. We'll have to work on them. So
There you go.
Careful with that.
I
Yeah.
left it alone.
Come
So-
to Amesbury, check it out. It's a small little town, but it's an easy jaunt right off of 495 and 95. We're only about
Yes,
40
they are.
minutes
Yes, it
north
is.
of Boston,
Mhm.
kind of halfway in between Boston and Portland, Maine. So it's a good
Yeah.
stopping point.
Yep.
And
Two breweries there.
come see Savaticus. Check out Beowulf. See what we've got to offer. It's a quintessential New England town
There you go.
with
Yeah, it's
quintessential beer.
beautiful town, great beer, great culture. And from what Jay's saying, there's some great food there. But
Absolutely.
when I get back up there, we'll have to hit some of those spots.
Absolutely. All right.
There you go. Well, we're looking forward to see you guys again. Make sure you let us know when you're coming through.
I'll keep
Will
in touch
do.
with you. Be up like I said, the first weekend in November.
All right.
So I will let you know when I'm coming through, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
gonna have to go talk to the woman in that room over there and see what we're doing the first week of November.
There you go. There you go.
Nice.
All right.
Well,
Go ahead, Jay.
thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming on. We
was
appreciate
absolutely
you.
pleasure.
Absolutely.
And
And he doesn't appreciate your beer yet, but my God, I
Oh
appreciate
no,
your beer.
I'm well on my way to appreciating your beer just from the conversation we had tonight and knowing what that man drinks and how I like and our taste buds are similar.
They're
So
very, very similar. The palates
so-
palates are pretty similar.
pretty similar. So, all right, sit tight. Don't go anywhere. I'll end the show and we'll talk for a couple seconds afterwards. So don't hang up.
all right.
This is the fun part. This is
the
where
fun
he
part,
does,
yeah,
he
exactly.
does the rote stuff,
Shut up. There you go. All right. Well,
and
anyway,
I make fun of him as he does it.
that's what he does. All right.
What
Anyway,
I do.
we'll wrap the show up for tonight at that point. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.loggerroom.com. Keep it up. I'm going to pain in the ass.
You're supposed to be reading. You're not
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
be watching me.
Because I'm watching you go like this. That's why. That's LAGERROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Logger Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday night at 6:30. And for those of you that... yeah. And for those of you that just want to listen to the audio podcast, well, I don't want to tell them 6:50 if we do start at 6:30. So it's 6:30.
We
so.
never start
It
at 6:30.
doesn't matter because if they follow it, they're going to get the notification as to when we're starting. So it's fine. So anyway, for those of you just wanting to listen to the audio
in the
podcast,
world of issues.
for those of you that just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Plus, the show is now available on Amazon Music Podcast and iHeartRadio as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of the following of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great week. Jay, thank you so much for coming on with us, and thank you so much for brewing great beer. Brewing great beer. There you go. That's what I was going to say.
John doesn't always have 3 beers on the show.
But when I do, there you go.
You can't say brewing.
Thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming on the
guys.
show. Absolutely.
Thank you,
so
Jay.
much for brewing such great beer. I look forward to enjoying it in about 6 weeks.
And creating such an amazing experience at the brewery.
Absolutely. So,
But you haven't been there. You can't say it. You're going to.
Thank you. Exactly. So anyway, thanks for following along with us. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. Drink a lot of beer. Drink responsibly. And we will talk to you soon, folks. Take care, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Prost.